Welcome to the Pool Operators Club podcast, where we dive deeper into the pool topics you want to hear. We're here to support all commercial pool operators, large and small. If there's a topic or issue you would like us to address in the future, then please email us at contact@pooloperators.club. Episode 4, Insurance for Pool Operators. I'm Andrew Gaffey, and I'm here with my fellow POC founder, Martin Hardy. Good afternoon, Martin.
Afternoon, Andrew, and afternoon, Nick.
And welcome to our guest expert today, Nick Elwell from BGI Insurance and Risk Management, based in Oxfordshire. And good afternoon, Nick, and thanks for joining us and for giving your time today on this very important topic.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Thank you for the invitation.
So we're here today to talk about all things insurance for commercial pool operators, but particularly the smaller operator, I'm guessing, because a lot of these big corporations have the in-house expertise to procure insurance, I'm sure. But perhaps a lot of smaller businesses, clubs, hotels, swim schools and things like that probably do need a little bit more assistance and advice. So Nick, you've been in the insurance industry for quite a few years. I daren't say how many, but I think it's quite a while. Yeah. And it would be great, really, if you could tell us a little bit about your background and your company as well, if you would. Thank you.
Okay, well, most people get into insurance by mistake, and I qualify on that basis. I worked in London for a number of years, decided that I wasn't sure if I liked the way that everybody else was telling me how to do insurance, so set my own business up. Been doing that now for some 40 odd years. And we specialize in those things which are not common, if you like. So most insurance brokers up and down the land will quite happily insure your car, your house, your shop, but not necessarily will they insure your swimming pool or your swimming pool club, or your yoga franchise, or even nuclear waste or marine cargo, moving things from here to Timbuktu. Wow. Everything that people say, why would you do that? We like doing that.
Yeah. So you deal with all sizes of business, yeah?
Yep. They vary in size between one-man bands. So a lot of the swim teachers and yoga teachers we have are just individuals. And then we have companies who trade across different continents.
And the BGI brand, is that a new brand, or has that been around? Have you been around as BGI for a long time? Or?
Well, we started off a long time ago as Elwell and Company, because most people, when they set up a business, don't have the imagination to use anything other than their own name.
I think I'm in that bracket.
Then at one point in time, we took over a small broker, which was called Gate. So we insured as Gate for a number of years, but then we had an office up in Bury, and the people in the Bury office, or at least wise their clients, struggled with spelling or pronouncing or saying Gate. And so we used to get letters addressed to Board and Gate, board spelled B-O-R-D, B-O-R-A-D, and just everything. So we changed it to BGI.
BGI.
And that's where we've been for the last 15, 20 years, I should think.
Yeah. And I came across you at, I think it was the ISP seminar a few months back, and I met Derek, and that's where this whole conversation came from, really. We had a really interesting conversation, and I said, we really need to do a podcast about this. So thanks for coming on board, and we'll get to our first questions. Martin's got the first couple for you, so we'll kick off with that, if that's okay, Martin.
Yeah, that's fine. Nick, could you explain what the difference is between professional liability insurance and public liability insurance?
Yep, most certainly. Public liability is designed to protect the policyholder from claims being made for personal injury or property damage, whilst professional indemnity is different insofar as it won't cover these two things, but it will cover financial loss. So if you do something that doesn't injure anybody, but it causes them a financial loss because they can't trade or because they've lost whatever it might be, they've lost the opportunity, that then becomes a professional indemnity claim.
Got you. Okay.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, thanks very much. Just moving on. So, what is efficacy cover?
Well, this is a nice one that everybody forgets.
Yeah.
Under a public liability policy, you'll normally have an extension called product liability. Now, product liability is designed to cover damages caused by the product failing. So typically, if you've got a lamp switch somewhere and there's a cable running along the carpet, but it hasn't been sealed properly, so the carpet burns down, that takes the house with it, that then becomes a product liability claim. The efficacy element of it becomes important when you are relying on a piece of equipment to do its job. So in terms of swimming pools, for example, if you have a piece of kit that's designed to distribute the chemicals that you want to add into the water at the right rate, and it fails, so it now starts putting in too much of this or not enough of that, and you start injuring people because of the chemical imbalance, that then becomes a claim caused by the machine not working, not doing its job, not functioning as it was designed to do.
Right. That's interesting.
So that's quite interesting, that, Andy, because obviously
Yeah.
we'll expand on some of these points, but that's interesting. Then that borders on then facility responsibility compared to business responsibility, because a lot of these little swim businesses are actually hiring facilities. So where does that liability stroke responsibility lie in terms of making sure that that equipment is right to do its job? It's just an interesting thing that's come on the back of Nick's answer, really.
It's actually something else you need to look at very carefully, because a lot of people, when they hire swimming pools, don't realize they've signed a contract saying they've hired a swimming pool, or who is responsible for what.
Yeah. It's a really important point. That probably half answers the next question, really, which is, do I need professional indemnity insurance and product liability insurance? Because, well, I'm not selling products.
Indeed, they're not. But if you're selling anything, or you're hiring it, or you're giving it away, or you're having something which forms part of a service, that is your product. Professional indemnity is really on advice, as opposed to products which are on a sale or part of a contract of some sort.
Yeah.
A lot of swim schools do not need professional indemnity insurance, but some do. Generally speaking, public liability, product liability can cover most elements, but not all. And that's really why you need to talk to a broker who can explain the difference as to what you do, as opposed to what the school down the road does, because the two may be different and the covers required by each will be different.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's a great explanation. Another one, interesting one is, okay, so if you get some people say, well, I don't employ anyone in my swim school or my club, but I'm told that I must have employer's liability insurance. And why would that be?
Well, in English, we struggle with the term employ. Most people will consider they're employed if they're salaried and paid PAYE. But in the terms of the law, anybody that you reward one way or another, or even if they're working for you on a charitable, no remuneration basis, you are responsible for them if you are telling them what to do for their job.
I see.
So if somebody turns up as a lifeguard, for example, because someone's gone ill and you're short of a couple of people, that person isn't employed, but they're most certainly working under your instruction. And if they injure themselves whilst doing so, you are likely to be responsible for that injury.
Right, and that's a great explanation.
That's fantastic info, that is. I've got another one now for you, Nick. What is the difference between claims made and claims occur in insurance?
I think if I had a couple of quid for each time I had to explain this, I'd be a very wealthy man by now. The claims occurring policy literally says what it is, that the claim, if there is one, relates to the year in which the incident happened. So it's easiest to describe if you have a property. So you insure your house in the year 2000, and in the year 2002, you find that there is an incident, something has gone wrong with it, but that started going wrong back in 2000. You make your claim against that policy that was current 2 years ago.
All right. Yeah.
I
On a
see.
claims made basis, you claim against the current policy. So typically in professional indemnity insurance, you would insure for the year of your trade. And then at the end of that year, the policy comes to an end, a complete stop. You take out a next policy in the next year, and that then will cover you back to the date you originally started trading. At the end of that year, that policy stops, and so you go on. And so you have to look at what's called a retroactive date to find out when that policy covers you back to. The complication there is that some insurers do one, some insurers do the other. And so you really have to be very careful if you switch between one type of insurance and another.
That's fantastic. Do I need cyber insurance, Nick, if I'm a swimming club owner?
Yes. Would you like
And
to
what
say
does
why?
it cover? No. Well, the next question was, what does it cover?
Why?
Why?
Why is probably an easier question. So let me take that one first. As soon as you run any business, you have data. The data isn't yours. It's all about other people, and you hold it on their behalf. If somebody comes in and steals that data, you have lost other people's information, and you are culpable. You are responsible for it. Yeah. Nothing you can do about that. And that's why there are so many crooks around who like scanning through your systems to try and find the details of other people. So then they can play all sorts of online tricks on them. They might find that they can find their way into their bank accounts. They might find that they can simply con them out of money. Cyber insurance is important. And if you're a business and you don't have cyber insurance and you have done something wrong, the fines can be enormous. Absolutely enormous.
Yeah, there's no limit to the damage these guys can do, is there really?
Well, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I suppose then we're bordering on things like GDPR and all that kind of stuff as well, aren't we?
Well, that is exactly what it's all about. So your most likely way of losing revenue is because you'll be in breach of GDPR. You won't do that on purpose. You will do it by accident. Well, one of the ones that came up recently, this was a charity who was sending out emails to individuals who needed information of a certain new type of injection coming out. And instead of sending out the emails on a BCC email, they sent it BC. Now that meant that everybody who received that email knew that everybody else on that email was carrying a certain disease that they wouldn't want made publicly known.
Yeah.
A simple mistake made by a young person in the office who was just trying to get it done before they went home.
Yeah. And I think, Andy, based on what Nick's saying now, this is a critical element as far as these business owners are concerned as well.
It
Cyber
really
insurance.
Is. Yeah. I mean, we're arranging sort of covers, so it's incredibly inexpensive.
Yeah.
Right.
But I also appreciate incredibly inexpensive is still too much if you're not earning a lot of money.
Yeah, that's right, mate. Yeah.
True.
Well, that's fantastic. That's a brilliant point and well answered. That's great. Can I get legal advice and help generally from my insurance company, Nick?
Yes, if you buy that type of insurance. No, if you can't. I wouldn't want at this stage to pick up on the different policies that are available to most of pool operators, swim schools, swim clubs. But some of the legal expenses policies are very, very shallow. They offer a bit of advice, but no more. And some of them are really good and help you through difficult times. All I can say is see what you've got. So if it's good enough, well and good. And if it's not good enough, take another look.
Yeah, fantastic.
I had another one here, which was if I'm a swim school owner or a swimming club owner and all my freelance staff or subcontractors already have their own insurance, why do I need to cover them?
Well, how do you know they have it? How do you know they've paid for it? How do you know it's current? How do you know it covers what they're doing for you? The typical one is everybody's policy is due for renewal on a different date. And so they may have forgotten to renew it. No harm was meant, but they didn't pay their insurance premium on the Friday. They didn't renew it until the Monday, and on Saturday there was a disaster at swimming pool. You really can't afford to take that risk.
Yeah.
There are also the conditions that some policies have are different to the policy that you might have, so there might be gaps in cover. There are just too many things that can go wrong.
Too many variables to rely on it. Yeah. Okay. And another one. If an employee injures themselves through their own stupidity, why can't they claim against me for that?
Well,
Or how?
we mistakenly in the UK call employers' liability insurance. They call it workers' compensation through the rest of Europe and America and most other places. And that deals with it more accurately. If you are working for someone, that doesn't mean you're an employee, but you're working for them. You could be a subcontractor. And you are injured as a result of that work or during the course of that work, then the person who has employed you is responsible for your well-being and will have to pay you compensation. There is no liability that has to be proven for that to happen.
Oh, I see.
So a recent case that we had, just to give you a very obvious example, quite a large company took on a general help, might be a good word for it. And he managed to break a broom handle, then trip over something and stab himself with a broom handle.
Ooh.
It was his own complete negligence when he was prattling about, to use a technical term. But our client's insurers had to pay him a significant amount of money because he was hospitalized for a good period of time.
Right. Wow.
Just
Okay.
ridiculous. But that's the law.
Right.
I see. Brutal.
This is all great and interesting stuff. This, I can tell you.
They're all the things you don't consider when you're starting up a business.
Yeah.
Well, it's very difficult because, if I go and see a client and they say, well, tell me what could go wrong, it sounds as though why would you bother? Why would you even start?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You start off all excited about your business plans and everything, and
Indeed.
then
Yeah.
you've got to go through this lot.
It's a bit like when Andy and I go out and do our courses and we're there teaching them about spa baths and things like that and hot water and bacterial stuff and things like that. And half the time on the courses, they turn around and say, I'm never going in any form of water again.
Absolutely. You can understand why, can't you?
Yeah.
Nick, I just needed to go back on the public liability insurance side of it, really.
Okay.
10 million is a figure that's been widely bandied around in the industry for some years now. Is this still adequate as far as cover is concerned? And are there pressures from the legal industry for this to increase anytime soon?
There aren't currently huge pressures from the legal industry because the legal industry is receptive to anybody that's tried to do whatever they can that makes sense.
Yeah.
That said, if you are a swim teacher and you've got a couple of kids around and one of them is unfortunate enough to dip under the water when you're not looking and is there for too long, that child could be brain damaged as a result of that 5-minute lapse of keeping an eye on things.
Yeah.
A brain damaged child could live for another 70 years. And the cost of looking after that brain damaged child could be $250,000 a year.
Yeah.
So on that basis, you really need to have 20 million liability cover.
Right.
Most people will say, well, in reality, that's never likely to happen. And if it does happen, I'm not sure what I'd do. But I mean, to be fair, there are very, very few claims that run up to that number. But if the question is, could it happen? The answer is
yes.
Yes, it can.
Yeah.
I suppose in sports and leisure, there is more opportunity for it to happen, I guess.
Well,
just for all the various activities and
the thing that causes the damage is, or the damage is in financial terms, is when someone damages their brain or their spinal cord,
Yeah.
so that they need help for a long period of time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
We've heard lots of cases in the past, haven't we, Martin, where people have dived in swimming pools. There's been inadequate signage about the depth of the pool, and they've
Yeah.
jumped in and they've broken their neck, and
Correct. Yeah.
it's ended up in huge, payouts.
Spinal
And
injuries. Yeah.
yeah,
that's a popular one, particularly on parties of people having the extra glass
Yeah.
of wine or something, and then proving they can jump in further and faster and better than anybody else.
yeah. But
Yeah.
now I suppose that they could almost void their insurance by simply having a drink. Isn't that the case these days?
Well, no, unfortunately, it's not.
Is it?
I mean, if you own the pool and it doesn't
Yeah.
have a sign saying "Don't dive in here," the fact that the guy's had 6 pints is still your
Is
fault.
irrelevant, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. I noticed a lot of hotels especially highlight that now. No drinking.
No drinking,
If
no
you're
diving.
entering the pool,
No drinking, no diving.
Yeah. Indeed. Yeah. So if there is an accident at a pool, and there's an injury or negligence claim that arises later from that, what's the very first step that the operator should take? Should they go to their insurance company or broker first, or should they just go running straight to a solicitor?
They should always tell their broker or their insurance company first.
Yeah.
Some brokers will pay attention and get involved in that. Others will just refer you to the insurers. That depends if you're an online purchaser, if you know the company you're dealing with. Various things will change it. But
Yeah.
the first port of call is to your insurance company, and then they can decide which lawyers to appoint to defend you or help defend you.
Yeah.
Because the insurers at the end of the day are the guys who are going to pay the claim.
Yeah. That's great. No, just to be clear, that's super.
Right.
Okay.
I've got one on income protection cover now, Nick. Does income protection cover insurance where there is a loss of the pool use due to damage or urgent repair being required, or can this be covered at all?
Yes, we've got to be very careful about the term income protection, because that normally relates to the individual rather than to the business.
Yeah.
If you're talking about the business, we're looking at business interruption cover. So if there were a fire at the premises and the roof fell in, or even if the engineering plant all failed, if there was a landslide or earth movement underneath it, or a cracked pool, all of those things can be insured. You can, first of all, insure it for the physical damage, so you can get recompense for rebuilding the pool or replacing the plant. And then you need to consider your loss of revenue as a result of that. And your loss of revenue could be 2 years worth of income.
Yeah.
So very often that'll cost more. The value of the loss of revenue will be more than the value of the pool.
Yeah.
I can imagine. Yeah.
You've got staff to cover, and
Well,
costs.
you've got staff to carry on paying. You've got people who may have paid you up front that you'll need to return the money to, and you haven't got any money to return. There's everything can go wrong. So you really need to take very careful advice on that.
Yeah, I mean, eventually it could result in the business going bump, because a lot of these small swim schools are reliant on hiring one particular pool, and if that kind of circumstance, sorry, go on.
Absolutely right. One of the issues is that a small school owner will hire a local pool. The pool could be a public pool. It could be in someone's back garden. There's nothing wrong with doing either of those things. But if suddenly the pool isn't available, there may not be a contract in place. So the school owner suddenly has nowhere to go to teach their children or their pupils how to swim. But there's no recompense payable for that, because it's simply a breach of contract. Nobody reads the contract as they should. Legal expenses insurance might help recover that, but very often there simply isn't a contract. How many people hire pools at the local leisure centre?
Yeah.
They've got their terms and conditions written on the back on a postage stamp so small, you'd need more than a microscope to read it. And people don't.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And in terms of that, and you mentioned it, and it's a big one now because pool space is being reduced, and pools themselves are closing. A lot more on the private side, and a lot of individuals that own pools in their own homes are actually looking at the potential and actually are hiring out their own private pools. So
Well, that is something
again,
that we're looking at quite closely, because that then brings in a whole new series of problems and issues, which you gentlemen will know all about, so I'm quite sure.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, and it's lovely to have the pool space, but it's the consequences of getting it all wrong when you set it up.
And there's a lot of demand, isn't there? At the moment, there's a big race to try and find pool space, isn't there?
Yeah, I just feel sorry. I just feel sorry for a lot of these swim business owners. I mean, it's just so hard to get pool space.
Yeah, we've lost so many public pools, haven't we? Especially, more out of town ones, the smaller ones.
Yeah.
And just in our locality, we've lost a couple of pools over the last sort of 5 years, and it just knocks, the knock-on effect on the neighbouring swimming pool is quite dramatic.
Absolutely. I mean, it's always a surprise to me that local authorities can raise capital to build a pool, but they so seldom put the resources behind it to keep it open and operating properly for a period of time.
And we go back to one of Andy's and ours favourite terms here, Nick. PPM, planned preventative maintenance.
Yeah, often
lacking. Invaluable. So go on, Andy. I think you've got another one, haven't you?
If a swim school was deciding to sell accessories or products or swim aids as an extra revenue stream for their business, does that mean they need any other special insurance or product liability insurance, or would this be covered by the manufacturer of the product?
No,
or is it already covered?
The individual who sells something has to have, I say has to have, it's not a legal requirement, but common sense dictates they need to have their own product liability insurance for anything they sell, hire, rent, lend, anything like that.
I see. Anything at all. Yeah. Great. Well, I think that's certainly cleared that topic up, hasn't it? The product liability. We've come at that from all angles, and okay.
Is there anything in terms of, obviously we fired some kind of general questions at you and things like that, but just based on your experience over the years, and with special reference really to swim schools and things like that, is there anything in particular that you think we might have really missed out? Is there any experiences that you've gone through that you could brief the listeners on? It's just that kind of thing, really.
Yes. Not that you've missed it out, because you live this life, you know everything that can go wrong. But when someone comes to us and say, we want some insurance, what do we need? It is quite challenging sometimes, because we could spend a fortune on their behalf. And at the end of the day, they need to decide which is the most important things in their mind and how much they're prepared to pay money for it. So if you have a pool, clearly you need to insure the pool. You don't have to, but pools are expensive things, so it's a good idea to. The plant inside of a pool can very often cost nearly as much as the pool itself. People don't think about insuring the plant for the right sum insured. They put it in 1 year, and 10 years later, they've insured it for the same amount, forgetting that it's going to cost rather more to repair. Engineering insurance is really quite useful. You can have a maintenance contract, you can have just breakdown cover, you can have all sorts of engineering cover worth considering, because then if it does go pear-shaped, you don't have to worry about it. Somebody else is going to pay you your income. So they're all the critical things. Selling other bits and pieces, well, running a business is running a business. And if you can sell armbands at the same time as everything else, then sell the armbands. But again, it's another layer of insurance. All of the data that everybody has, you need to protect yourself against the data. People are not nice. They will steal it, and then they'll sell it to other people, and you'll be the responsible one. It goes on
I think
forever.
a few of the things that you've touched on there are obviously relevant specifically to people who are blessed with owning their own pools as well. You know what I mean? As a swim business,
Yep.
Now, so some of them have got that facility, which is great. And I think they've seen the benefit of that over the years in terms of controlling the program and obviously the growth of their business and all that kind of stuff as well. So there's plenty of insurance stuff there. And I think we have covered pretty well as well the people that hire their pool space, and there's a clear differentiation between those two kind of business owners. There's
Very
the
much
ones
so.
there's the ones that are dependent on other pools and hiring the facilities, and they're the ones that are blessed with having their own actual swim centres, which they've invested a lot of capital money into to fire them up. And Andy and I are very aware of quite a few of those throughout the country, because it is the way forward, believe it or not. But again, dependent on capital, will result in whether they can afford to do these things or not. But if you've got control of your own space from a swimming business perspective, that's you're 80% sorted, in my opinion.
Well, one of the stories I'll tell you there, because it's useful, is that there was a person with quite a nice little pool in their home. They had a bit of a family party. Someone dived into it and damaged themselves significantly. They then brought a claim against the owner of the pools for not putting the signage in the right place. That was disputed by the homeowner and their insurers. It cost them £580,000 to prove that they were not guilty of the charges made.
Wow.
You can imagine how much they would have paid had they been guilty of not putting the signage up.
Yeah. But I think that, for me, that puts everything that we just discussed in the last half an hour, that puts everything in perspective to me. It's just the importance of getting, insurance in the first place, but more critically for me, the right insurance applicable to the business that you're running.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've got quite a substantial staff, haven't you, Nick? Do you have specialists in each area of insurance, or?
We have sections that specialize in certain areas, so yes.
Okay, that's helpful to know. Okay, Nick, well, I think we're just pushing for time now. We've almost filled our slot. So where can listeners get in touch with your company, Nick, if they want some advice? I guess the first thing to do is to call you and have a good chat, really. So where can they get they get in touch with you?
The best way, as you say, is call us up by all means. We do have real people and they like answering the phones. Our website is bgi.uk. Very simple, very straightforward. And that will take you into any number of sections of the policies that we are quite happy to talk about in any detail.
Great. Okay, appreciate it. Thanks so much for your time and advice, Nick. And we'll put your contact details in the description of the video below. So if anybody needs to get in touch with you for some advice on that, we hope they do.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's been quite enlightening. We'd love to hear our listeners' comments and questions as well. So please do leave those below as well. And who knows, we may do a follow-up video for this as well. We'll be on the next Pool Operators podcast in a couple of weeks' time. Thanks very much indeed. It's goodbye from me.
It's goodbye from me, and thanks very much, Nick.
And goodbye from me as well. Nice to meet you.
Thanks, Nick. Pleasure.
Take care.
If you found this content helpful, please help us by clicking the like button below and subscribing to the channel. Thank you.